This story is called Measuring Time. I remember my life in utero. I loved my water world. My mother's heartbeat would pulse towards me, whispering for only me to hear. I remember her pain flowing into me. Her anger would wake me from my sleep. We would share our anxieties. I miss all of these things. Now I longed for the sound of her voice as it was then, uttering distant, muffled words. I miss the movement of her language, lungs rising and falling, pulling me gently upwards, as words were lost in breath on the wind, whilst I was kept safe and warm within, always. Then my water well drained away. I was pulled upwards with heavy hands. The darkness was replaced with a piercing light. Muffled sounds with soft edges became clamorous. The air on my skin confused me. It felt too light, too insubstantial. I was adrift in vastness. My mother, my house, my world. I could smell her, I could hear her. But she was now separate, and forever would be, always. I was born a medical marvel, a miracle really. I'm in all the textbooks as Baby C, by my initials MAC or MAC. Somewhere, sometime, I'm not sure when, doctors started addressing me as Mac, then parents and friends copied, and my identities in print and in bone became one. The doctors said I have cerebral hypersensitiveness. My brain ages at 5.2 times the normal rate. My neurons grow and twist, spreading and connecting, too fast and too eagerly, chemicals seeping and electricity spurting, and so my consciousness bloomed too early. But once awake, I couldn't sleep again. Within a few calendar weeks, I began to babble, forming fragments of words, and by 3 calendar months, I was saying whole sentences. Walking took a little longer. My soft flesh and baby's bones couldn't support my weight. At the beginning, my mother looked after me. She sang me lullabies and carried me in a sling strapped to her chest. Mother changed my dirty nappies and dressed me in cute little onesies with pictures of giraffes on. Mother cooed over me and smelt my head. She would sit me on her lap, cuddling me for hours. She would hold my tiny hands and kiss my nose, and her breath smelled of peppermint and licorice. But I grew up too quickly. I thrashed my limbs in frustration, desperate to conduct my own movements. My muscles strengthened fast. First, I insisted on holding my own milk bottle, my chubby little hands clutching my surrogate breast. Then I'd heave my body around, grabbing fistfuls of carpet, pulling myself like a slug. I was walking by 5 months, and I walked right out of babyhood. I was quickly identified as a prodigy and subjected to endless tests. Neuroimaging, blood workups, intelligent quotients, personality profiling, and more. And by every expert you can think of, psychologists, neurologists, pharmacologists, scans and needles and doctors with clipboards, this is what I remember most. Mother was always in the background, with an inscrutable expression, lips pressed, arms folded, and eyes staring far away into the unknown. By the time my body was 36 months old, I was 94 centimetres tall, with a head circumference of 22.6 inches, and I weighed 15.7 kilograms. My IQ was 180. I was alone and confused in this early world. So I let my numbers and letters define me. I still do. I am Mac, my blood type is AB, and I come first. At 3 calendar years, I swapped toys for textbooks, and Stuart Little for Shakespeare and Shelley. I was the national under-15 chess champion and a regular winner at my local bridge club tournaments. I started my lifetime collection of trophies to sit dusty upon shelves. At 4, I completed my A-levels, and shortly after my 5th birthday, when my brain was as developed as a 26-year-old, I began my first degree in neuroscience at the University of Manchester. Shortly after graduation, on a rainy autumn day as orange and red leaves fell from the trees, I noticed my mother's round belly. She had an angular face, thin legs, slim arms, but a soft curve of flesh in the middle as she patted gently, unconsciously. I knew instantly. I took to watching her. I would shift my eyes from my books and see her gently rubbing her growing bum, eyes lifting up to share a smile with my father. One day, when my mother was bent over the toilet bowl, I pulled her hair back and stroked her back. Don't worry, Mother, we'll all be over soon. Then you'll have a little boy or girl at the end of it. You might even have CH like me. Then you can take them to see Dr. Roberts and Dr. Coley and, oh, for heaven's sake, Mac, I can't worry about that now. I'm just hoping. But I never heard what Mother was hoping for. She began vomiting and retching violently, and I left her alone. She came to me later in the day, and with swift embrace apologised for being a grumpy bump earlier. I said it was understandable, kissed her on the cheek, and returned to my room. In the winter, when my sister Hope was born, I watched fluffy snowflakes fall past the window and felt chilled to my core. The delivery room smelt of amniotic fluid. The stench of new meat old was heavy in the air. I felt a longing and a sickness and a sadness so deep I felt boundless. Tiny innocent Hope sat nestled in my mother's arms. There were smiles all around as Mother kissed her nose. Hope was a dutiful baby. She was needy, she was helpless, and she cried a lot. My mother rushed around fussing over her, feeding and bathing and playing with her, dressing and changing and bathing her. I whispered to her. I asked her about her water world. She would stare at me unseeing, kicking her chubby legs in the air and dribbling. Hope was just an ordinary baby. The day Hope was born, something died within me. The smell of the delivery room followed me, seeping into the fabric of everything I touched, wafting into low-slung clouds that openly wept and dampened only my skin. It flowed into my dreams and rose up through my thoughts. One night, I awoke to the deafening sound of silence. The house was still and dark, with only the night as its boundary. I stared upwards into the pitch. No light, no sound, only the smell of past life. Grey thoughts flitted across my mind. I went to my mother's room, where all were sleeping. Hope was tiny in her cradle. I held her hand. Her fingers curled around mine, sure of what to do, used to their comfort. Fists squeezed with all the strength there is in love. She woke with a squeal. Oh dear, shh, what is it? Mother turned the bedside lamp on and startled at my presence. Mac, what on earth are you doing in here? Her eyes narrowed at the sight of me, my arm dangling still inside the cradle. What have you done to her? I'm not allowed to touch her, I asked defensively. Just go back to your room, Mac. Go to sleep. I returned to my bedroom, but I didn't sleep. I watched dark shapes move and change in the darkness, tracing their outlines, wondering where they began, where they ended. Years wore on. Things changed, but everything remained the same. Mother and Hope were inseparable. Mother and Hope at the park, Mother and Hope at the zoo, at the circus, at the beach, building sandcastles and memories, always away. I didn't need looking after, so I didn't need her time. When Hope was 3 years old, I received a scholarship for a master's degree in philosophy. I tried to escape the physical world and live amongst ideas. I lost myself in the abstract. Philosophy made my heart sing. It made that part of me that isn't flesh and bone and cells and particles float back home. I graduated with a distinction in the school's René Descartes Philosopher of the Year Award for Analytical Achievement. Mother was at my graduation, clapping and smiling. It's hard for me to describe my life without reference to degrees and hospital appointments. It would be the paving stone to my existence. I'm both researcher and the researched. I'm both the adult and the child. It's telling how every qualification adds letters to my name, who I am, how people know me, how they differentiate me from all the rest. I have several degrees now, and I always write my full title, for this is who I am. Following years were full of more studying, but the older I got, the less people noticed me. I was no longer the precocious infant who struggled to carry heavy textbooks and whose short legs swung wildly below the lecture theatre benches. I became an adolescent. My ageing body seemed less out of sync with my aged brain. I joined a special school called St Ambrosia Centre for Gifted Children. We were all precocious. We all had genius IQs. We were all given the freedom to study advanced material of our choosing. I began to feel like just another body amongst the crowd. 1 year rolled into the next. They are all indistinguishable in my memory now. There was no advancement, no progress, just more of the same. I was already at the top. I'm 203 months old now. My body is almost 17 years. I still count my numbers. I'm now 158 centimetres tall and weigh 52 kilograms. But my head circumference, my IQ and my blood type are all the same as when I was 3 years old. Some things resistant to the ravages of time. I'm still mad, and I still come first. My numbers, my letters, my abnormal measurements, my position at the top of the distribution curve, my grades and certificates, these have been the constants in my life. These have been my comforts. So it is now, as it always has been. I have 100 billion neurons in my brain, but they are degenerating rapidly. My mind feels foggy. I have the initial indicators of early onset dementia. My ageing brain has become old. My defining feature is still dominating me. I take pills and tablets now, and they temporarily restore my lucidity. The fog of confusion lifts, and I can see beyond the haze of smog. The furniture of my life lies just beyond my reach. My memories stand like objects, wanting to be touched. I remember my early life best. My recent days and months are blurry. Sometimes they don't exist. The fog descends once more, and I am cut off from myself. I forget my numbers. Sometimes I don't recognise my name. Strangers come to visit me, and it doesn't make sense that hope is so old. But today is a good day. The sun is high in the sky and shines brightly on the world, illuminating all that we do. I know who I am. I remember my story. My memories pulse like a heartbeat, powering me forwards. I am comforted by my numbers, by the finite nature of our measurable existence, because in infinite time, it's too easy to get lost. I have forgiven my mother for her happiness, and I've boxed up my certificates and trophies. I know what I need to do, so I keep counting.